How's it going, y'all? Titan Smash MTG. Today we're back to some more MTGA standard action. Today I want to talk about some existing decks in the archetype right now and how Kaldheim changes those decks. As you've seen in the last video here, we looked into some 10 new standard decks for Kaldheim standard. And even though the new stuff is very important and really fun, we can't just forget about the existing archetypes because those are ones that, despite all these new things we may want to play with, these existing archetypes are still going to be the main things that see play. So I wanted to look at these decks that already exist, see how they change, what they get, talk about if they get better or worse, and look at those. So we'll be looking at 4 different decks that are kind of top of the meta right now. We'll be looking at some Gruul Aggro, we'll be looking at some Esper Yorion, some Temur Ramp, and Dimir Rogues. Yeah, Dimir Rogues. So we'll be looking at those 4 decks there and kind of see just how these change with Kaldheim, and just some kind of speculation if those get better, if they get worse, all that kind of thing. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's go. Thank you all so much for the support. We finally hit 3,000 subs. The support for the 10 videos has been kind of insane. So y'all are really, really nice and make me happy. So once again, don't forget, early access event, January 27th is next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be playing some of these new decks, taking them into action. Without further ado, let's jump into deck number 1, some Gruul Aggro, some Gruul Smash. Let's go! Alright, so starting off here, this is what I have for new and maybe improved Gruul Aggro, Gruul Adventures. As you'll see, not a lot of changes, and that's kind of par for the course for 3 out of 4 of these. One of these actually has quite a few changes to it. The reason being, and I wish this could change, but it's just really not worth it to go off the adventure package. As much as I'd love to not have to play Edgewall Innkeeper and all those kind of things, you're still just so incentivized to play your Edgewall on 1. So with the 1 drop slot, of course, we're playing 4, Eddie, making his way known as standard as we'd known him to do. Turn 2, we're playing the whole base set of Brushfire Elemental here, as per usual. You just can't really beat the landfall triggers there. You know, sometimes it's a 2-mana 1-1. On turn 3, it's usually a 3-3. Sometimes a 5-5 swinging in for 2 mana. Really hard to beat that kind of aggression, that kind of value there. So we play a whole play set of that. Playing a whole play set of Shatterskull Smashing. A card we don't use too much in here. Usually this is just a land drop. However, especially if you can get the Great Hinge resolved, get that extra mana, and then be able to take out some bigger creatures, Shatterskull Smashing, it's really nice. And as Gruul, you're the aggressive deck, so the Shocking in for 3 life doesn't really matter all that much, except for aggressive decks. Whole playset of Bone Crusher. Bone Crusher still just a fantastic card, nothing new there. If you're playing Standard, you're playing Red, you're probably playing a playset of Bone Crusher, and you don't really have to think about it too hard. Whole playset of Kazandu Mammoth, another creature that can also be a turn 3 way to have turn 3 creature that can represent 5 power, and then next turn play a Great Hinge on turn 4. So Kazandu Mammoth coming in as a whole playset there, but also land if you need it. Whole playset of Luckstruck Beast, because once again, just a solid play here with Edgewall Innkeeper. This draws a card. Turn 1, this is another 1 mana play that you have available to you, and this kind of, you know, it enables your Great Hinge to get down on turn 4, which is a big deal in these kind of decks. So Luckstruck Beast, I mean, the whole top row, nothing new here. But let's get down to some new stuff here in a little bit. 2 of Questing Beast. Questing Beast, even though it gets outsized by some of these creatures now, Questing Beast is still just a wall of text worth of cards that can be aggressive, can hit Planeswalkers, hit the face, and is a fantastic Embercleave option, as we all know. So 2 of Questing Beast there. If it wasn't for Lovestruck Beast in the meta, I think Questing Beast is an easy 4 of. But since the Lovestruck Beast just trades with it super easily, it's kind of a bad trade-off for you with your Questing Beast. It's a 2 of there. 2 of a Crow and War, because I still think there's going to be plenty of things we're still in this format where Crow and War shines and does well. So we'll play 2 of, depending on how the meta shapes out. You may want to go more, you may want to go less, but I think 2 of is a solid spot for this. But let's talk about the new cards here in Gruul Adventures. We'll start off with the 2 of Toski, Bearer of Secrets, and to me this kind of plays out in a way like the Great Hinge does. But say that they remove your creature and you don't get to cast a Great Hinge, Toski is actually a lot more reliable source of card draw. Because with the Great Hinge, the counters are nice, the life gain is nice, but essentially you're wanting this for the card draw. You're wanting that engine to kind of help you keep going and do a bunch of things here. So you drop Toski on turn 4, you probably already have 1 drops, 2 drops, 3 drops on the battlefield. You get to swing in, and now the opponent's really forced into making them some blocks they may not want to make, because if you connect and get damage on them, you're drawing a card. So, and Toski's survives board wipe, so even if that's their big play, especially with Doomscar being previewed now, you know, a lot of people may really be depending on that board wipe being a thing. Toski survives this, even that 1 damage against some decks is just going to keep on drawing you cards. So 2 of Toski there, I think it's a nice one to have in this deck, a very different resilient threat the deck usually didn't have before. Also want to try out 2 Battle Mammoth here. This is one that I've not really seen a lot of hype on, and I think because it kind of got spoiled late. You know, it was leaked early on, and people saw it, but then it didn't get spoiled until way later, so people kind of just forgot about this card. But this is another thing on turn 2 where if you don't have your Stomp or don't need to hold up Stomp, and you don't have your Brushfire Elemental, you can just foretell this. That way on turn 4 you can play a 4 mana 6/5 a Trample, and it replaces itself. It gets to be a target of any removal. So Battle Mammoth having Trample is nice, the 6/5 body is huge, and the fact that it can be foretold and be cast for 4 mana is really nice. So I like Battle Mammoth here a lot. I think this is a little bit better than Elder Gargaroth even. Perhaps I'm wrong, but I think, a lot of times these Gruul matchups comes with them removing your creatures, and I'd rather them have to, make us draw a card if they're going to remove it anyways. So 2 of Battle Mammoth there. I like the new addition there. I think it's worth testing out in Gruul. Finally, at the top end here, playing a Vivian, whole playset of Embercleave, and 2 Great Henge. Nothing new or crazy exciting in there, nothing we haven't seen before. Great Henge is a 2 of, I could see it being 3 of, but I think most play 2 of, even though it seems like they always have it. But Great Henge is one of those cards, if you have a bunch of multiples of it, it's super awkward. And if you can't enable it, then it's also super awkward. So I think 2's the right amount there. But yeah, this is Gruul aggro. Otherwise, we look at the mana base here. Not too much has changed. We already had the pathways anyway in Standard. We're still playing the Fabled Passages. And otherwise, we're just playing a lot of snow-covered forests. But I will say, these snow-covered forests allow us to possibly play things like Blizzard Brawl. Sorry, I had to look at the name of that. But yeah, these snowlands do allow us to play something like Blizzard Brawl if we wanted to. So those matchups where you bring in Primal Might, but maybe you want a cheaper answer that still fights something and keeps your creature alive, Blizzard Brawl can be really nice. Because especially when you have things like Questing Beast on the other side, no matter how much you grow with Primal Might, your creature's going to die. So having Blizzard Brawl to easily fight, have your creature have Indestructible, and then be able to swing in without worry is really nice. But that's what we got here for Gruul aggro, Gruul Adventures. Again, not too many changes here. Let's look at deck number 2, some Dimir Rogues. Alright, so deck number 2 we're going to talk about here in Kaldheim Standard. This is the new and improved Dimir Rogues. Once again, you're not going to see a ton of changes here because Rogues is pretty fleshed out and established, but it gets some good cards here to try out. First off, one that I want to add here is a whole playset of Brine Barrow Intruder. This is a 1 mana 1/2 with flash. Whenever Brine Barrow Intruder enters the battlefield, target creature opponent controls gets -2/-0 until end of turn. This is really close to Zulaport Duelist that was spoiled last set, but I think this is a little bit better. This being a 1/2 is actually a huge difference there. The fact that this can block any one drop here, or any 1 mana creature, and be able to live and tell the tale is really nice. So the fact that it's a 1/2 is nice. That's really it. It's just a 1/2 with flash if you need it. It just kind of fits in the way Rogues wants to do things here. So yeah, you still probably want to play Ruben Crab overall in turn 1 if you have that opportunity. But it's still just a nice 1 mana rogue flash threat that's able to, it triggers the Yield Enforcer. It makes all your rogues kind of synergies pay off there. It's a good card. Go back here into the rest of the rogues here. We have a whole playset of Merfolk Windrobber. It's still just a great card in these kind of lists. The one of Clinging to Dust being all sneaky there. Whole playset of Ruben Crab. Whole playset of Thieves Guild Enforcer. Playset of Drown in the Lock. These are just standard staples. We know these are going to exist in rogues. They're really good in the deck. Nothing to really discuss there. 2 Eliminate, 1 Heartless Act. This is kind of just a little split I've been seeing them play. You can always mix these up depending on the meta and what it is going to be, but you want to play some removal there besides Drown in the Lock as well. 1 Negate, Soaring Thought Thief. The rest of this doesn't change. We'll just kind of talk about the new spells here, and that's just Saw It Coming. Saw It Coming, we play a 2 up here. I think sometimes on turn 2 it's actually okay to take that time off to foretell this. That way you kind of have your backup counter spell in the pocket and you can do whatever you want. Or if you want to just play your other stuff and then you have a 3 mana counter, I think that's fine too. But I know a lot of people have been playing Didn't Say Please, and while the mill is relevant, I just don't think it's that worth it. I think I'd rather have the opportunity to cast this for cheaper if we actually needed to. So otherwise, nothing really crazy here. Again, we're playing some snow-covered lands. You could possibly play a Faceless Haven, but considering you have things like, we have black cards and blue cards on 1, we have Drown in the Lock and Soaring Thought Thief at blue-black on 2. I don't think you can really afford to play colorless cards, even though Faceless Haven could come in and attack as a rogue. Just don't really think that's worth it. So, again, not really much change in here. Kind of the same thing. If there's anything y'all think can fit in here, let me know. But I do want to try Brine Barrow Intruder in rogues with Kaldheim, and I think Saw It Coming as a 2 of is still probably fine. But otherwise, nothing really changing here. Let's go ahead and look at one that does change a whole lot, and this is Temur Ramp. Alright, so next up we'll talk about one that I'm actually very excited about because we get to play a lot of new cards in here, and this is Temur Ramp. If you may see my channel, you know the times I do play Temur Ramp, Temur Ultimatum kind of things. I enjoy it anyways, and they usually do well for me. But this list is just, I'm proud of this one, and I think it's spicy. Starting off the 2-drop slot here, we're playing 3-up Fire Prophecy. Perhaps this could be another removal spell now, but I think Fire Prophecy is still good. We can do 3 damage early on if we need to, and if we need to pitch something, we say we have a lot of ramp spells we don't need anymore. pitch that and try to find some gas there. 2 Shatter Skull Smashing. Again, we ramp up, so Shatter Skull Smashing is very relevant, though if it needs to just be a red source, it can. Bone Crusher Giant, again, I said this earlier, we're playing red, so we're playing 4 of Bone Crusher Giant. So let's talk about some of the new stuff here, though. We're playing 2 of Cosima, God of the Voyage, and I want to talk about why this works well on both sides of it. The front-facing part here, if you haven't seen the other video already, it's a 3-mana, 2/4 Legendary God. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile Cosima. If you do, it gains whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. If Cosima is exiled, you may put a Voyage counter on it. If you don't, return Cosima to the battlefield with a 1/1 counter, and draw X cards on it, where X is the number of Voyage counters on it. So for every land drop, if this is exiled, you're putting the counters on there. Eventually, when it comes back, it comes to the battlefield as a big old creature, and you draw a bunch of cards. If you haven't noticed, in Temur Ramp, we ramp a lot. We put a lot of lands on the battlefield, which means a lot of Voyage counters on here. So say Ultimatum, you get to do your thing. Even if you have a really bad Ultimatum late in the game, you just hit 4 or 5 lands, that's a bunch of Voyage counters on here. If it's exiled, then you play the Cosima, you bring it back, you draw all these different cards, and then you're ready to just explode and do something big again. But even on the backside here, the Omen Kill, 2-mana, 3/3 Legendary Vehicle, crew it for 1, so it's easy to crew. Whenever a vehicle you control does combat damage to a player, that player exiles that many cards from the top of their library. You may play lands from among those cards as long as they remain exiled. So yet another way to kind of play lands, get some stuff out of the opponent's graveyard. And I have to say, this one's not as reliable in this deck just because we don't play a ton of creatures that are cheap and, easy to, trigger on early. So the Omen Kill, even though I think it's an amazing card, it's not as exciting in this deck. This is a deck where you definitely want Cosima to just do some work. But I'm really excited about the fact that I can just play this card if I need to on his face. I can play the vehicle side if I need to. You have all these options. But I do think Cosima getting exiled and you just doing your ramp shenanigans while you're just bringing all this stuff on the Cosima, even if you're not in Temur Ultimatum strategy, say you're just getting close and you need to find that gas, bring Cosima back, you're probably drawing 3 to 4 cards at that point. That's really good. And one last thing to mention with this, we do play Terror of the Peaks. A big Cosima coming back with all these counters on it is just a bigger target for Terror. Trigger that, hit the opponent's face. That's like Beanstalk Giant levels of damage there. So back to some cards we know already. We're playing a whole playset of Cultivate, one of the best ramp spells in the format. Playset of 3 Migration Path. Migration Path, even though it's 4 mana, getting 2 lands on the battlefield means you hit your Migration Path. Those are lands 5 and 6, and then next turn, as long as you have that untapped 7th mana and your mana treats you well, Genesis Ultimatum, baby. We're playing a 3 of Terror of the Peaks here. Didn't want to go on with 4 of it here, but obviously Terror of the Peaks is a really good card. A good way to kill people dead, though it's not the only way in this kind of list. I think that's why it's so nice. We're playing a whole playset of Fertile Footsteps and Beanstalk Giant, so again, just another way to turn 3 ramp. You have so many ways to ramp here early on, it's nice. And later on, we know how much damage a Beanstalk Giant can do, whether it's from swinging out, whether it's from dropping with Terror of the Peaks. It's bigly. Well, let's talk about a fun one that I added here. We're playing 2 of Waking the Trolls. And I told y'all in my 10 cards video that I would find a way to make this card work. And I think this is the shell to do it. So we can hit this off the Genesis Ultimatum. We play 2 of them. So if we hit this, it comes in, it destroys a land. Not too devastating or anything, but it's a guaranteed 6 mana play that we have. But if, say we're hitting other creatures, Genesis Ultimatum, we get all these creatures, and we destroy one of their lands, that's just such a big tempo swing. The next turn, we can put a target land from a graveyard on the battlefield under our control. So that land that we destroy from the opponent, that can be our land now. And once again, if Cosima is exiled, that's another counter, another Voyage counter on Cosima. And then finally, we're a ramp deck. When that Chapter 3 goes off, choose target opponent. If they control fewer lands than you, create a number of 4/4 green troll warrior tokens with trample equal to the difference. So we should probably have 3-4 lands more than the opponent by that point. So we're probably making that many 4/4 tokens. If Terror of the Peaks is out at that time, they're dead. Like, that's just going to ping them to death in the face. So much versatility here. I think this card works really well with Temur Ramp, and I really like it here. We play the whole set of Ultimatum, because why not? We play a 1 of Kiora, Best of Sea God, because it's still another really good hit off of Genesis Ultimatum, making an 8/8, doing its thing there. Obviously really, really nice. And finally, one more really fun card we have in here at the top end of this. This is Coma, Cosmos Serpent. I use this in my Sultai Snow list as well, my Snowtie list. 3 double green, double blue, legendary serpent that can't be countered, which is nice because a lot of times against our deck, people just pack in Disdainful Strokes now and the big counters. Can't counter this thing. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 3/3 blue serpent creature token named Coma's Coil. Sacrifice another serpent. You can tap target permanent, and its activated abilities can't be activated this turn, or Coma gains indestructible. So Coma is able to survive a bunch of these board wipes, which is nice. It goes fast. Once again, if we have Tear the Peaks out, every upkeep, this is making a 3/3 to do 3 damage or something. Another just super, super good hit off of this, an all-star in the list, and I think this is fantastic. Finally, at the top end here, 3 of Ugin the Spirit Dragon. You may have heard of that card, because sometimes we know we just need to wipe the board and start all over, and at that point, if we're starting all over, we probably have a lot better things to do than the opponent. And I've mentioned Cosima a bunch here, but I'll mention it again. If we got to 8 mana, even if we exile our board, we may have that Cosima exiled already. Then we bring it back to the battlefield, redraw a bunch of stuff, and then kind of set up our battlefield to be better than the opponent's. Mana base wise here, nothing super, super crazy. We do have the new Black Channel Pathway as a pathway land there. So the mana is pretty smooth in here. I didn't want to go too in depth on those, but we're still playing 4 Bark Channel Pathway, 2 Crag Crown Pathway, Catchery Triome, 2 Rivergrad Pathway, a little bit of everything while still having enough. You need to play a decent amount of basics as well, since we're using some Fable Passages, some Cultivate, some Migration Path, that kind of thing. So yeah, this deck has a lot of fun stuff to it. I think this is going to be really, really nice early on, especially. A lot of time people just try to do these really straightforward strategies so they don't have a bunch of counter magic, and this is where you just go over the top of everything anybody's going to be doing. So Temur Ramp, obviously, I'm very excited about this one. Can't wait to play it. Let's go. Alright, the last deck we're going to look at here is Esper Doom Foretold, Esper Yorion. My big nemesis, the deck that's just always kind of hard to beat and does really well. I just have Nightmares, the Mythic Mat beating me in our event, but we won't talk about that. We get a few kind of cool toys here, and the thing with this is like there's so many options for everything, but I didn't want to go too crazy. It's always really tempting, once again, when these sets come out, you want to play with all the new toys, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we're trying out a few new things here we'll talk about. Let's kind of start from the top here. Playing one of, we say start from the top, this is probably the top end. One Dance of the Bands, just as that kind of emergency, get all your stuff back, put it on the battlefield, all your enchantments and things like that. A lot of different targets for it here, but Dance of the Bands, we know what this card does. It's a house. Playing 1 Eliminate and a playset of Heartless Act, just some early removal here for some creature decks we need. Kind of wait until we can get our bigger stuff later on and start controlling the board. Playing a 3 of Negate and a 4 of Omen of the Sea. Omen of the Sea, even though it's always this unassuming card in these kind of lists, it just does work. It helps you scry 2, you draw a card, it kind of sets you up for all those other turns, just make it seem like you always have it. Because everybody always complains, it always seems like the 80 card Yorion decks have it. When you're getting to scry 2 and draw a card, it's kind of easy to have it. Playing 2 Elspeth's Nightmare. I think this one's pretty meta dependent. It really depends on how much it can actually hit. But there's times when Elspeth's Nightmare is super, super good. So I think a 2 of here is fine for that. Wanted to try out 2 Nico Aras here in this list. This is the 3 mana Planeswalker, which again, 3 mana Planeswalkers are always really nice, even if they're kind of underrated. But you ramp quite a bit. You don't ramp, but you just get up to a lot of big mana anyway. So late game, that X ability, you can just put a bunch of shard tokens on the battlefield, and that's what this deck loves. But even just regularly, Nico Aras, you put it on there, that -1 to deal 2 damage for each card you've drawn this turn. Esper Yorion draws a lot of cards anyway, just kind of naturally, so a lot of times you'll be doing 4 or 6 damage to this thing. I think this works really nicely in Yorion shells, and plus that +1 is also kind of spicy. Up to 1 target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Whenever that creature deals combat damage this turn, return it to its owner's hand. This is a way, like I've said earlier, you can get your Skyclave Apparitions back, you can get your Yorions back. So those are 2 cards that you just always want to be casting as much as you can, and you have no problem getting those back to hand and casting them once more. So I think 2 of Nico Aras here is really good. Could possibly be more. I think this card is actually super sweet in Esper Doom. Playing 2 of Omen of the Sun, nothing new, not a super exciting card, but it gets the job done. We know what it does. Playing 2 of Solid Coming, I think it's worth it to be able to play Solid Coming, especially when you play Doomscar also. Having multiple different things that we can kind of foretell, leave the opponent guessing a little bit. They have to play around everything. And if they're playing around stuff with our list that has just a bunch of counters and removal, you're not going to lose many games with Esper Doom. That's kind of just played right into what Esper Doom wants. So 2 of Solid Coming here I think works out pretty well. Worth testing for sure. Whole playset of Skyclave Apparition, one of the best creatures in the format, one of the best overall answers for a lot of things, and again, with Yorion flashing it, with Nico Aras being able to flash it, there's a lot of ways to bring this back and get recursive value out of it. It is great! Playing 2 of Treacherous Blessing here, depending on how the meta is, I think the meta always kind of decides how this card can be, because if the meta is not aggressive, you want 4 of these easily, because it's so good. But there are some times where you play your Treacherous Blessing, and then you start doing so much damage to yourself that it does hurt a little bit. So it's kind of a risky one there, but worth playing 2 of. We're playing 2 of Archon of Sun's Grace here. This could very easily be Dream Trawler, and again, I think it's just kind of a personal preference here. But since we play so many enchantments here, and Doom Foretold and all that kind of stuff, I think Archon of Sun's Grace is the way to go. Start making all these Pegasus and go wide, Constellation, all that kind of thing. Whole playset of Doom Foretold here. We have a lot of enchantments. It's a pretty natural fit here. No surprise there. Doom Foretold is an easy 4 of. 2 Extinction Event and 2 Doom Scar for the board wipes. That way we kind of just, we have some little things that can answer both kind of deals. Possible turn 3 board wipe as Doom Scar is nice. And also just Extinction Event, exiling everything on 4 is also super good. So we're playing a 2 of Fyra's Retribution, and I'm probably butchering on that pronunciation there. We're playing 2 of this. This is the 4-mana enchantment, 1 double white black. Chapter 1, create a 4/4 White Angel Warrior token with Flying and Vigilance. Number 2, until end of turn, angel you control, they gain tap. Destroy target creature with power less than this creature's power. So 1 mana, or 1 power, 2 power, 3 power, the dead. We also play some Marius Calls in here, so you have other ways to kind of make your angels work and have some more triggers of this. Finally, angels you control gain double strike at end of turn. Again, by this point, if it's late in the game or you flash this back, maybe those Marius Call angels that you have that's just been holding battlefield down, now they get double strike and you can freely swing in for the win there. So making a 4/4 with this, and then naturally just playing a Yorion and blinking it back seems really good. Getting another 4/4, just doing that alone, that's 3 different 4-power flyers in the air. That's quite the clock for your opponent. I think this card's pretty good, and I think this will see some play in some Esper Yorion list. Finally, close it out here. It's a whole playset of VCD. It's a 4 of, no surprise there. The card's fantastic. It's one of the best, if not the best, Yorion targets you have. We're playing the other 3 Yorions in the main deck to go along with our 1 companion one. Let's look at the lands here, because the lands actually changed quite a bit. I feel like they kind of deserve their own section, and because they don't fit on the screen. So we have a whole playset of Amarius Call. Like I said, you have some angel kind of synergies already in this deck. Amarius Call can be a surprise, just close the game out of nowhere kind of card. We want that. We play Amarius Call. Playset of all the pathways. So we're playing a playset of Bright Climb, Clearwater, and Hingegate pathway. All those are 4 ofs here. Playset of Fable Passage, no surprise there. Temple of Deceit and Temple of Enlightenment are both 3 ofs. Let's talk about a couple of the new ones we wanted to try out here, though. One is Gates of Istafel. This is the enters the battlefield tap to add white, but you can pay 2 white and double blue and tap it to sacrifice it. You gain 2 life and draw 2 cards. I think even though it comes in tapped as a 1 of, that's probably fine. I mean, it's like it's a kind of free shot to be able to see if this works or not. So as a 1 of, I think this is fine. It's a little sneaky one, but I like it. Finally, the other new card we're playing is another Port of Carafel. This is another port that we're playing a 1 of. This is enter battlefield tap to add blue. You pay 3 blue, double black, and sack it. Sacrifice Port of Carafel. Mill 4 cards and return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Because that's what this deck needed, was more ways to trigger Yorion, right? But this is another way. If they've killed your Yorion or you've milled it somehow, get it right back on the battlefield. Get all those ETB triggers. Because I know 7 mana seems like a lot just to reanimate a creature. But when you're getting Yorion and all the kind of things associated with it sometimes, you're getting double-digit worth of mana easily off of that. So that's Esper Doom, Esper Yorion. I think it got a lot of, some pretty neat toys here as well. Again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So you don't want to do too much new things here. But I think a few of the things we're trying here are worthy things. So let's go. That's what it is. Let's look at these one more time. So that's what we got there. That is the changes to top standard decks right now in meta, seeing what Kaldheim brings them. I hope you all enjoyed this. It's been really fun making these new decks and kind of seeing what these old ones get to. I've already been brewing more new decks, so I don't know if I'll do another video or not on new decks. I don't want to just like flood you all with new decks because it's probably boring. But I've really been enjoying these cards. Again, January 27th, that is next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, twitch.tv/TitansmashMTG. Hop on in, check us out, the Early Access event. We'll be playing a lot of these new toys. If you have a deck you want me to check out, feel free to send that to me on Twitter. That's the best place for it, twitter.com/TitansmashMTG. Happy to take a look at what you brewed up and see. Thank y'all for watching. Thanks again for so much support lately. It's been amazing. Love y'all. Let's go!